At WCTCAM.com. Jersey moves fast. Join the show that keeps you one step ahead. Jersey Central with Bert Barron on the new Talk Radio 1450 WCTC.
8:09. Welcome to hour number 3 of Jersey Central on the new Talk Radio 1450 WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey. How are you? It's Bert, and it makes perfect sense that, well, since we didn't do the contest in the first hour, and we didn't do the contest in the second hour, we're kind of obligated to do it this hour. So you'll hear the voice of Somerset Patriots manager emeritus Sparky Lyle sometime. We'll do it sometime between now and 8:30. How's that? Listen for Sparky. Be the 14th caller when you hear him. You'll get a family 4-pack of tickets. Somerset Patriots playoff baseball, Friday, September 21st at TD Bank Ballpark in Bridgewater at 7:05. 14th caller when you hear Sparky is going to win the tickets. All right, so keep a sharp ear out for that and be listening. Let's get to the Miller Lite Jersey Central Newsmaker Hotline. I'd like to welcome in my special guest. He, of course, will make an annual visit here for his work, of course, that he does every year with the New Jersey Folk Festival, which happens around Rutgers Day every year. He's a professor of American Studies at Rutgers University and also author of the book called Twin Towers, The Life of New York City's World Trade Center. And it's great to welcome back Professor Angus Gillespie to WCTC. Professor, good morning. It's Bert Barron. How are you?
Good morning, Bert. I'm doing fine. Thanks.
It is great to talk to you, and I think back in the spring we said we got to get you back here on 9/11 to talk about this incredible book that you wrote. And I this book here has taught me a lot about what the Twin Towers, what they meant to people, and there were so many varying opinions around these here. In fact, in the introduction for the book, you say, to many architects, they were a nightmare worthy of disdain. Some people considered them a symbol of arrogance. Others, a prestigious corporate address. So these buildings really meant a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
That's right. When they were first built, the architectural critics were very hostile. I know that when I first got interested in the topic because of their huge size, I went to the library to do some research, and I was quite surprised to see there were no books about the World Trade Center. And then I looked at surveys of American architecture, and they were consistently left out. And I was sort of puzzled. And then I had a chance to talk to the Dean of Architecture at the University of Chicago. And he was very disdainful. He just said, well, look, these buildings are beneath notice. They're plain, they're banal, they're ordinary, they have no decoration. We just don't want to deal with them.
And they were referred to as a city within a city. Is that right, too, because of so many activities and so many people that were there every day?
That's right. They were so big. And the idea of the World Trade Center, you have to break it down, the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be for importers and exporters and ship supply people. It was to help promote the Port of New York, which was in the post-World War II time losing business to other East Coast ports. So that was the original idea, stimulate trade.
Gotcha. My memories are very unclear as a little kid, but what was kind of like the first day, Professor? What was sort of like the ribbon cutting when the Twin Towers were officially open for business?
Well, Austin Tobin, who was the head of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, he stayed away because his feelings were so hurt about the criticism. And later he said, well, he stayed away because it was raining, but that was a pretty transparent excuse. I think he was hurt that the architectural critics were not on board with his masterpiece.
Wow. And the construction work was done in 1976. Was that meant to coincide with the bicentennial, or was that just the way it worked out?
I think it was just the way it worked out, Bert.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when I look at the buildings and just going back and looking at pictures, maybe you'll know the reason why. It seems like one of the towers, it seemed like there's like bands across it where you go up so many floors, and then it looks like there's almost like a stripe across it, and then there's more and more floors, and then another stripe, and then it finally goes up to the top. Was that was that part of the design? Did that sort of signify something in terms of the construction? Does those bands around the building mean something?
Yeah, it did mean something. It goes back to the problem of the elevators. In brief, normally in a building, you just put in the elevators and forget about it.
Sure.
But the problem was that this building with 110 stories, if you put in sufficient elevators, it would eat up all the rentable space. So they came up with a plan to break it up. For example, the first bank of elevators stopped at the 44th floor, and the second bank of elevators stopped at the 67th floor. And it was broken up into zones, and at each zone, like floor 44, floor 67, there was a kind of lounge where you would transfer from the local, from the express elevator to the local elevator. And that way, by stacking up the elevators, they didn't use up so much floor space.
Interesting. So I couldn't get in at the ground floor and go all the way to the top. I would have to change elevators on the way.
You're right. And
Wow.
At first, the experts told Austin Tobin, they said, people will never accept this. But it turned out people liked it. In fact, the express elevators was a breakthrough. You would enter the express elevators and walk to the back, and then when you got to the sky lobby, the back door would open. So it was like first in, first off, and that was a breakthrough.
Yeah.
People actually ended up liking the system because it saved so much time.
Yeah, it was such a unique place, and of course there is a construction that is on the site there now, but not the same, right, Angus? Talk about this book and why you felt putting this story down in writing was such an important thing to do.
Well, I was fascinated by the sheer size of the building, and like I said, when I first researched it, I found that there were no books out there. So then, what I did was I talked about the politics of the construction. He had to coordinate the Port Authority between New York and New Jersey, and I talked about the engineering. I talked about the architecture. But what I think I did that was different was once I got that out of the way, I interviewed people, the janitors, the window washers, the importers, the exporters, the commodity traders, and I think the interviews is what brought the book to life and helped garner a larger readership. It avoided academic jargon. It was sort of just a down-home story for the armchair reader with people we could all relate to.
Wow. And I can also remember a story as a little kid also, and there was a documentary that was made on it some years afterwards also, about like a daredevil or a high wire or a trapeze artist or somebody that wanted to like tightrope walk across the Twin Towers. That didn't go over so well when the day that happened, did it?
Well, the authorities didn't like it.
I didn't think so, no.
but the people were enthralled. That would be Philippe Petit. He was a French tightrope walker, and he secretly sneaked up and through a line between the two towers. This was in 1974, and it drew worldwide attention to the Twin Towers. I should also mention that was followed by Owen Quinn in 1975. He parachuted off the Twin Towers in 1975, and that was followed by George Willig in 1977, who actually scaled the Twin Towers using some special equipment that he had designed.
That I remember seeing on the news. Like, wow, look, there's really a Spider-Man. He's climbing up the side of the World Trade Center. I remember seeing that on the news there too. But
yeah, he monopolized national television coverage for about 3 hours.
I do remember that as a kid. But the book is more poignant than ever now, I think, Angus. Is it still in print? Can people get their hands on copies of the book Twin Towers?
Sad to say, it's no longer in print.
Oh, okay.
But there's plenty of copies available on Amazon,
all right,
both used and new.
Well, I'm grateful for mine that you autographed for me the day you were here. So, and
my pleasure.
It was an opportunity for me to learn something that I really didn't know that much about. I mean, you go to the city all the time, and you saw the buildings, and when you really kind of read what went into making them possible, you really have much more of a deeper appreciation as to what it took to get those things built there and what they meant to so many different people. But when someone asks you, Angus, what the Twin Towers, what were they like? You had something to do with those. What sort of elevator speech answer do you give them?
I would say that they were ignored and despised for many years, but after 9/11, they became skyscraper martyrs. And about the dead, let nothing but good be told. we remember them fondly now, even though they were widely criticized when they were first built.
Yeah. Well, the book is called Twin Towers. My guest is Rutgers Professor of American Studies, Angus Gillespie, the author of the book. He said out of print, but you can look for it on Amazon. Just search by the title there, Twin Towers. A great, great read, and certainly worth reading. And it's every passing year that goes by, Angus. The stories and the memories are still with us here, which is a pretty special thing. But I thank you for the time today, and I'm sure we'll talk again very soon. All right, some great insight today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Bert.
All right, thank you. All right, Professor Angus Gillespie, my guest.